Reporting from Washington, Sam Donaldson.
Good evening. The battle of the budget, how much to raise taxes and on whom, how much to cut spending and from where, moved into its final round today when the Senate, working well after midnight, passed its version of the new budget. With that, the effort began to find a compromise between the House plan with its higher taxes on the rich and the Senate plan with its increase in the gasoline tax at the pump. And into this mix stepped President Bush, traveling to Capitol Hill to meet with congressional leaders. But as Britt Hume reports, the president is no longer acting like a man determined to have his way.
All the president's efforts today, including an unscheduled personal visit to the Capitol, seem designed to do one thing: get the House and the Senate to agree on a budget and get whatever they agree on passed. Inside, he practically said as much.
I think people recognize that more important than any individual getting it exactly his way, including the president, is to get the nation's business going forward. And that means we've got to get a deal completed.
Earlier at the White House, Mr. Bush reiterated what was left of his no-tax pledge, his opposition to higher tax rates, but he never said never.
I have stood against raising these individual income tax rates, and I think I'm on the right track in that, and I'm going to try to hold the line.
While the president spoke of trying to hold the line, House Democrats were pounding him for protecting the rich from higher taxes.
The insistence on the president in having no tax rate changes on the highest income Americans seems to us to be inexplicable and indefensible.
Never mind, of course, that Foley himself just a few weeks ago was all for a budget that had no tax rate changes. He and the House Democrats now clearly think they've got the political upper hand with their soak the rich budget.
You're not going to have a package unless the free ride for the rich is over. And that's whether the president vetoes or not.
But as the House and Senate negotiators began their work, the threat of a presidential veto of the final budget seemed to be receding by the hour. Mr. Bush would prefer the Senate version of the budget, but seemed reconciled to a compromise with the House. There seemed a good chance tonight Mr. Bush will end up not only with higher taxes, but higher tax rates as well, and little, if any, of the reduction he's long sought and promised in the capital gains tax. The president apparently hopes a lower federal deficit will make people forget all that. Britt Hume, ABC News, the White House.
While all this is going on this weekend, the government will not shut down. The president has signed the legislation that will keep federal agencies funded through Wednesday. Congressional leaders today held back sending the newly passed civil rights bill to the White House while they searched for a way to avert a presidential veto of the legislation. As civil rights leaders demonstrated in front of the White House against the promised presidential veto, congressional backers were said to be considering additional legislation that would satisfy the president that the bill does not force employers to establish quotas for hiring. A White House spokesman said if they can do that, the president might go along. In a moment, new fears about Iraq's nuclear potential, the beginnings of an anti-war movement in the United States.